think the best thing about exploring is being able to see the world at your own pace, see the beauty of nature in what's left behind for your own eyes. Whether or not you're a ghost hunter, urban explorer, whatever it is, exploring is for everybody.
We live in a world today where urban exploring is not necessarily going out of style. It's kind of the opposite. You have people coming in, you have people coming out, and you know, it's gradually over the years getting more and more popular. You know, the whole community's coming together with it. And as much as the city doesn't realize, there's a lot of urban explorers that are digging deeper and deeper into the spots of the city. So this is Ottawa. Not too much happening here. You have people coming back and forth from work, from, you know, homes. We're still in a lockdown. But I think the most special thing about the city, coming from an urban explorer, is that there's still so much history. What's special about the capital is that they're turning all of these abandoned structures back into its original state. For instance, you have the Ottawa Jail Hostel. That's back as a hostel, you know, people can go there to stay. At the same time, you still have the urban explorers coming, so you have a clean looking city, but at the same time, they're refurbishing it. So my whole point today is to explain to you guys my story behind urbex and ghost hunting and what I did to get to where I am today. And although a lot of people don't realize it, urban exploring and ghost hunting is not just a hobby, it's more of a lifestyle.
This whole hobby to me is not just a hobby. It's like, it is, but at the same time it's not. So before we get into this whole video, I just want to point out that this is going to be a little bit of my life story, kind of tell you guys how, you know, I got to where I am and what I did, and, you know, tell you guys all my experiences of, you know, what I've encountered throughout the years with this. I want you guys to know before we get into that, you're gonna hear some stuff that's gonna be a little bit like, whoa, I didn't know that about you, but as far as I know, this is my life story and I'm gonna tell you. So yeah, to me, urban exploring and ghost hunting together merge very well, okay? Throughout my whole life, I've been into, you know, the whole ghost hunting scene. You know, ever since I was a child, I used to actually see my grandmother, which, you know, at the time I was way too young to literally know what she looked like. I was like 2, maybe 3, and my mom was telling me that I was describing this, you know, woman, and you know, that was what she died in. My mom was like, who do you see? And remember, she was telling me when I was really young, I kept seeing this woman, right? And you know, I was describing her in like a jacket and stuff, and my mom was like, okay, that is your grandmother, which how do you know is her, you know, like you're way too young. Like she was telling me at the time, I was way too young. 2 or 3 years old is like, you don't know anything at that age, right? You're kind of developing your senses and stuff. But she was telling me that, you know, I'd see all these people in the house, and you know, ever since then, like once I think I was like maybe 14 at the time when she told me this, and that's when like I was like, you know what, like this is cool. Like didn't believe in it fully, but at the same time, like gave me like hope, you know, like like opened my mind to, you know, what could possibly be there. And ever since I was like 13, 14, I got into, you know, the whole paranormal side of things. I would always, you know, try and see if things would happen, try and like debunk things and stuff, and you know, it just went on from there. The one thing that got me started into the whole abandoned scene, I will probably get more into the ghost hunting stuff, but basically way before, you know, I think this was like probably 5 years ago, you know, 6 years ago, I was heavily involved in the skateboard scene. I would skateboard all day, every day, and now since I can't, like if I break a bone, I'm screwed, okay? But we would always go to this place. It was an abandoned building, which is now actually a car dealership now for some odd reason. But before that, 6-7 years ago, we would drive all the way out to this abandoned building, which was graffitied head to toe, kind of merges into like what I do now, because there was like a huge voodoo circle and stuff like that. But as far as that goes, we would all come there to skateboard. We would all, you know, smoke weed, and you know, people would do drugs there. Now it was a whole scene that kind of brought me into the abandoned field. So when you went in, like for me, not being from the city, I grew up in a small town. This city feel was like cool to me, you know, like I would drive all the way out there and just to skate with all these city guys and girls and stuff, and looking around we're like, wow, this place is cool, you know, like there's even like a voodoo circle. They called it Dead Bird. There was dead birds on like each part of the circle and the star inside and stuff. And as far as we knew, like we were like, this is dope, you know, like, and you know, back then 6-7 years ago, you know, I was like heavily involved with, you know, smoking weed, skating. Like I didn't want to do anything else, right? And I mean, I did work in retail, and I will probably get into that in a bit, but as far as I know, like seeing Dead Bird was totally like different to me, you know, like I'm used to seeing abandoned farmhouses and silos and barns and stuff. That walking into this place was like a totally different feel, which kind of opened my eyes more, right? I was addicted to drugs. I was smoking weed every day, all day. You know, I would just, like, this is something not a lot of people know about me, but I would just go crazy with that, experimented with other things, got caught up in it. And I was at the point now where I'm like, my life is like gone, right? Some teenagers go through that, some teenagers avoid it. But for me, I was done. As a teenager, I was all over the place, you know, I was never home. I didn't have a motive, you know, and, you know, seeing these abandoned places kind of opened my eyes, because we're like trying to make use for it, right? We're like looking for a bunch of abandoned houses. All of us skaters were like looking for anything we could possibly skate, especially in the winter. This is the main reason why we went to that spot, right? To get an indoor spot to skate in the winter, which was totally different because usually we don't skate throughout the winter like we used to back when we were like really young, because we didn't care, right? But now as you get older, you're like, screw the cold, man. Like, I'm not skating out there. Your board will get, you know, destroyed and whatever. So moving on from that, I don't really know how to explain it, but from there on, I was looking for more abandoned spots, because I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to, like, let's get away from this for a bit, okay? Like, I've broken my wrist. I broke my wrist. I've fractured my ankles. If I roll my ankle one more time, I'm super, like, I'm okay? So I was trying to move away from that, seeing like, what else can I do with my life? You know, get away from the skates. You know, I was hanging around with the wrong people. You know, the people I was supposed to hang out with were all doing their own thing, kind of trying to move up in life. And for me, being stuck in, you know, having that drug abuse with me was just, I needed out of there, right? So long story short, I was looking for things that can kind of, you know, move me away from that in a positive direction. So I used to watch a bunch of ghost hunters, ghost adventures. I started off with TAPS. Some of you guys may or may not have seen TAPS, but they're the main people who got me into it. And I would watch Creepy Canada and all that stuff. And long story short, I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, how can I do ghost hunting and, you know, without me spending like a big buck? You know, you have to go to these haunted places, hotels, jail, hostel. They're all expensive, right? For someone who doesn't really have a job and doesn't live in the city, it's impossible, right? So I'm kind of thinking to myself, I was saying, you know, what can I do? What can I do? And I would start off with abandoned houses, kind of, you know, just exploring it for years. And I would just, you know, mark down as much spots as I could. And over the years that went by, I gathered up all of these spots, and, you know, I wasn't really taking it seriously, right? But at the same time was just trying to explore. And I thought to myself, this is cool. I would hit up a couple of spots here and there, but it wasn't until mid 2018 that I really started taking this abandoned stuff seriously. You know, like I would strictly go all the time. I quit skateboarding fully. I actually ripped the cast out of my arm because I didn't want it on there anymore. There were some spots where I needed to climb up a ladder or through a window, and I didn't want my, you know, cast on because it was just like I wouldn't be able to get in, right? So I cut that off. Yeah, so I cut that off. And 2019, I pulled out my camera because I did go to Algonquin. I went to a college for photography and dropped out of that. I did the majority of the class. It was crazy actually because I was obsessed with photography. Like I would use my, you know, fisheye lens for skating and all that. And I was super into it, but I think only like 9 out of like 35 students in that course graduated because none of us were like wanting to do it. You know, the teachers were like super like rough on everybody. It was crazy because like you would see like professors like that are decent, right? You can't be like a high school teacher in college. I totally get it, but these photography teachers were like major assholes. Like they would just tear everybody a new. It's like, yo, like it's just photography. Anyways, I took my camera from that course and I was, you know, bringing it to all these abandoned spots. And, you know, as soon as 2019 started, I started a channel. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try and do this. And my very first spot was actually like 10 minutes down the road from my house. It was actually next to a quarry. And what I was thinking to myself was, I'm gonna try and do this. I was scared shitless, but I'm gonna try and do it by myself and see what I catch and just move on from there. And believe me or not, I legit caught a door opening. I still have the video, I think, but I caught a door opening and closing by itself, and I was the only one in there. You know, it's worth coming in here again. Whoa. Hello? Who's there? That was super creepy. My heart is pounding right now. There it is, just standing completely still now. Oh, holy f***. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I'm gonna go downstairs. Ever since then, I was like, I want to do this. Like, this is cool. I don't know if that was just like luck or anything, but I was scared shitless and I got back. You know that feeling when, you know, you get back to civilization, you get back to hanging out with people, and you get that feeling of like loneliness go away, or like that feeling of being scared go away. That's what happened. I was scared shitless, and then I met up with my family. You know, I was back where people were, so I didn't feel as scared. So that sense in my head kind of directed me off to another project, which kind of goes more into the story now. But I ended up booking up the jail hostel. Now, I went alone, and the top floor, it was complete. Like, this building is actually refurbished. It was actually, I think, semi-abandoned at the time. It used to be a jail. It held deaths there, it held hangings, it held, you know, people on death row, families, people doing like everything you possibly could imagine back in the day. So yeah, they had people doing whatever you possibly could imagine back in the day in that jail, right? They had public executions with over 5,000 people watching. Like, you have negative energy there. You have, like, it's known to be haunted, right? That was the first episode on Creepy Canada at the jail hostel. And I used to watch that all the time, by the way, early 2000s or, you know, late 90s or something like that. However, I saw that and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try and test it out for myself. Still kind of semi-skeptical and stuff. And I stayed there. I rented out what floor was it? It was the top floor. It was actually death row floor. They have the whole 8th floor. You can rent like 6 to 9 cells there. And there's single bed too. Like, your bed is, like, here's the walls right here. Your bed's crammed and squished between 2 walls. You have no room whatsoever, but they're kind of cheap. They're like 60, 70 bucks a night for the single cell rooms, okay? So I rented out one of them. And when you get up there, you have like the 9 cells or whatever on one side of the floor, and the rest of the floor behind that and the other wing is actually like a whole other side of the building that you can explore. So, you know, I rented out the room like super quick, and I thought to myself, I'm like, this is gonna be cool, you know, like, I don't know what I'm gonna catch, but I'm gonna give it a go. Nobody wanted to go with me because at the time people were like, you're literally quitting skateboarding to go, son. Like, this makes no sense whatsoever. It was cool. Like, I was just not caring at the time. I would just want to do my own thing, you know, like, try something new for a change. You know, I skated for, you know, 18, 19 years before I actually, you know, took the time to do something else. It was crazy. Like, my whole life I was a skateboarder. I played hockey, you know, I was into sports, I should say. Did soccer, did all of that. And then I finally got to that point where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna push skateboarding to the side and, you know, try this, you know, do more exploring and stuff. And I was kind of like, I saw all these people online like exploring and going to all these cool places, and I wanted to direct my attention to that specific thing, right? And, you know, I did that. That's all I wanted to do. I rented out the jail hostel, and when I got there, this is actually crazy to listen to, okay? So I rented out the room on the death row floor. That's the top floor, which nobody ever rents. Nobody, from what, in my experience, has like been there when I've rented a room. Nobody. Okay, so I went with friends and stuff. We'd all rent out the top floor because nobody wants to. It's the most haunted floor. And at the time, I'm like thinking to myself, this is bad. I'm by myself. Nobody wants to come with me. I'm gonna ask the lady, is there anybody, you know, staying on the floor with me? And I ended up asking her, and she was like, "No, nobody's on that floor. You're, in fact, the only one. Is this your first time?" And I said, "Yeah, this is my first time." And she's like, "Oh boy." So she gave me the passcode to the stairs, which you can access the whole building from that stairwell. And right before I went to go close the door behind me, she actually stopped me, said, somebody, you know, is actually staying on the floor. I read the wrong day. There's one woman, she's from Paris. She should be checking out tomorrow, so you might have to, you know, do your best to kind of not bug anybody, because, you know, at the time they're like, you know, they don't want, you know, it's a common courtesy of, you know, if people are sleeping, don't be loud. I totally get it. But I was like, okay, cool. You know what? Let me just go and unpack, and, you know, it's still like dinner time, you know? So I had time before I could keep it down. And I go up there, and this woman is just throwing stuff outside of her cell into her bag, just like freaking out. And she had this very heavy Paris accent. I can't really do it, but I asked her, I'm like, "Are you okay?" Like, this woman was like on the verge of having a stroke. And I was like, "Are you okay? Like, seriously, like, just take a breather." She's like, "No, all I heard was all of these, like, I don't know, I forget what she did say, but she was like just tripping out. She was like, I freaking heard ghosts at night, and it was 3 in the morning, and I cannot sleep. Like, it was bugging me. Nobody was up here. Like, just tripping. Just like, I have to go. Give them my key, and I just have to go. It's too scary. And I was like, this woman was tripping. Like, she was just like just not wanting to be up there. I asked her, I'm like, hey, before I bring the key back down for you, like, what did you experience? And she said to me, she didn't want to talk about it. Like, there was stuff like someone walking, she heard talking, and staff members do not go up in the middle of the night. She's been there for like 2-3 days from what she was explaining to me. And from there on, I'm like, okay, like, am I screwed? Like, am I going to be good? Like, I'm the only one like on this floor. Am I good? She just like walked out with her stuff and just like slammed the door. And that night, I was taking photos, roaming the halls and stuff on that floor, and she comes back and she puts her stuff back into the cell, and she's like, I will stay one more night. I'm just like going on. She's like, it just makes me feel more comfortable if somebody else is here. So I was like, okay, cool. Is it cool if, you know, like, I go and, you know, film tonight? I'm here to document the ghosts in this place. And she told me I was crazy. This woman looked me in the eyes. She said, you are crazy. And at the time, I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. Crazy or not, I'm here to, you know, change my skeptical mind, which at the time I'm like open to it, but I'm still kind of like trying to experience stuff for myself rather than, you know, hear from my mom that I used to see, you know, all these spirits when I was a child, which I don't think counts. Every child has that open sense to them. You know, they probably see a lot like animals do, right? So I go around, and this French woman decides to join me. She was like, can I walk with you? And I was like, yeah, you know what, cool. We did a loop around the whole place. There's actually the noose that you can still see there hanging up where they did all the public executions and stuff. And she got totally freaked out. She's like, I don't know how people do this stuff. And, you know, I was waiting for somebody to at least rent a room when I was staying there, because like overnight, she told me that it is the most scariest thing to do overnight. And I forget what time it was. It's probably like 1, 2. I was gonna get ready to go out. I was getting ready to go out at 3 for a little bit, which I didn't last long. But she ended up leaving again, and I'm like in my cell, just, you know, going through my stuff, charging my batteries, and I hear her, you know, packing up her stuff, and all of a sudden I open up my cell, and all of her stuff's gone. She shut off the light in the cell and just like left for the rest of the night. Nobody was with me the rest of the night. So I was just doing my thing, and this is the one reason why I got more into it. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm still in my cell. I'm about to go out, which I only lasted maybe 10-15 minutes in the 3 a.m. hour. I went out, or I was just about to, and I heard the door, you know, close, and this woman was long gone. And, you know, you can hear people walking up and down the floor as if there was real people. You know, so I didn't hear anybody. I'm sitting there, I'm like, what was that? Like, seriously, like, what was that? And I just kind of thought to myself, I'm like, this is really happening. And then at that point on, I was just totally flipping out. Like, I didn't last the full 3 a.m. hour like I was supposed to, but I did my best to, okay? And I actually ended up falling asleep at like a little after 4. Didn't get any sleep whatsoever. It was like 6. I woke up. Checkout was at like 10 or 11, and I actually checked out at like 7. Okay, but you could tell in my eyes. Like, I reviewed the footage. My eyes weren't the same. Okay, and they were like black and beady, and it was weird. I posted that to my Facebook, that whole video, and one of my boys from, I mean, you guys may or may not know him. You guys have probably seen Blake in my videos. I went to high school with Blake. He hits me up on Facebook Messenger, says, I need to talk to you. Like, seriously. Let's meet at the closest place, maybe like a Tim Hortons or whatever. And all through high school, I never talked to Blake. Like, we'd always like wave to each other. We had like mutual friends and whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. You know what? Like, let's talk. So we met at the Tim Hortons, and, you know, he was sitting there, and you can see he was kind of like, he had his arms and like, you know, just sitting there looking around. I'm like, usually people are like on their phones, right? So like, I knew, like, it kind of had that like sense of like, I need to tell you something. So I walk in, and he's sitting there, and I'm like, hey, like, what's up? And he says, I saw your video at the jail hostel, and I need to tell you something. My father is a medium, psychic. I can get you a reading. I can tell you, what happened, because I know you're probably like tripping out. And I'm like, yeah, like that video, like I did not feel like myself after. I was like on the verge of throwing up, and he was like, yeah, I'll get you a read with my dad. He'll tell you what happened. So I got a free reading with him. He's actually one of the top 6 psychics and mediums in the Ottawa Valley. There's a huge article on him, which I can leave in the description too. Long story short, I went over, and he does like $60 readings where you can actually do like tarot cards. He'll do like a full-on reading of you and some other things and stuff. Yeah, it was crazy. And like this, keep in mind guys, like this was the start of my journey into the whole ghost hunting things, which kind of leads to, I can't always afford to do hotels, so what can I do to still continue to do ghost hunting and exploring at the same time? So I kind of merged the two. So now I'm doing like abandoned ghost hunting, at times, and it's come a long way to where I am now. I just found the kingpin of this place. Oh my god. And if you guys did not know Blake's dad, his name is Ken Mason. He's actually from the Ottawa Valley. I actually went to him, and I was like, this is my first time being in a read, like I was super skeptical. I'm like kind of thinking to myself, is this legit? Because a lot of them are like both, a lot of psychic mediums tell you like very, minimal stuff about you, but he told me stuff about my grandfather and my family that nobody knows. I didn't even tell Blake about anything like that, and he kind of like spit out all this stuff. My sister ended up going for a reading from him too, said a bunch of stuff, and we're kind of like, oh my god, this stuff is real. Like how does anybody, if you're a medium or anyone, whoever, especially mediums, how does somebody know that about certain people? There's no possible way somebody can know all that about you or your family, past loved ones, and you didn't tell them anything. It kind of like changed my mind around. I'm like, hey, there's 100% stuff happening here, which opened my mind more. This is why I do everything I can to dabble into, the paranormal now, because I'm like so curious. I'm like an addict now. Like I don't want to do anything else, right? So ever since that point, Blake and I used to go to a bunch of these spots. We'd actually go to like strictly urbex. He's not really into the whole, medium paranormal stuff, but his father, which you guys can do readings, you guys could actually pop over to their Facebook page, and he can do a reading. He does public ones like every week or something. So you can catch him on live streams too, right? So yeah, it was different for me because at the time I'm so new to it. I didn't know like what I was walking into, right? The whole world, the whole universe of the paranormal can't be judged until you actually try it for yourself, right? So moving on, at the time I had very minimal spots. I would collect on my own. I would find some, use Google Maps to find abandoned spots, but I was kind of sitting in the middle of things, okay? So I didn't really know too much about urbex like some people, but I ended up finding an account on Instagram. I was looking through his page. There was a bunch of really cool like photos that this guy's took, and I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. And then I noticed a building that I've seen on my own. So I messaged him. I'm like, yo, did you get in? Because I couldn't find a way in. And he messaged me back. He has this urbex community or an urbex group, And he was like, you know what, man, come on out. I'll show you a bunch of spots, you know, get you into the whole gang and whatever. And, you know, you can take it from there, come back and film, whatever. So I was like, yeah, I'm hella down. Like, thank you, man. And I ended up meeting up with him. His name's Sean, and he runs an Urbex group called 13 Abex. And from my understanding, now we've done like crazy amount of stuff together. He brought me to like this abandoned strip club. He brought me to, you know, he brought me to an embassy, like a mansion. It was a French embassy somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but somewhere in Quebec. And some other houses, some rundown, like mansions and stuff. And ever since then, I'm like, yo, like this is so cool. And he brought up one spot. After a while, he's like, when you're ready, we're gonna try Silo, okay? And at the time, it's probably about, you know, a few months later, me and Robbie, you guys know Robbie, we worked at Pizza. And we would close every night, 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., sorry. And on the weekends, we'd close at 1, Friday and Saturday. And Sean messages me, and you know, I introduced Robbie to Sean, and they're tight too now. And Sean was like, okay, we're gonna try Silo. And Silo is this big factory in Montreal, which is the most intimidating and scary looking building somebody could ever see, probably in Canada, okay? There's been so many movies filmed here. There's been people who have died trying to get in. They found a body recently. People have, you know, died getting in and out. There's, you know, thousands of these holes and ropes. People have grappled up to the top of, you know, this building to do it. And it's, it was just crazy because every time you actually go to this spot, there's a new way in, okay? There's port security, which can hold you detained until the actual cops come. And trust me, you do not want to run into, you know, Quebec or Montreal cops. They suck so bad. I actually think Robbie got fined once for skateboarding on the sidewalk in Montreal. He got fined for that. Long story short, Sean messages me. He's like, we're gonna do a Silo run. And at the time, me and Robbie were like, yo, we're off at like 1 a.m. Like, we're gonna be like super tired. I remember, I'm like, should we do it? I looked at Rob. He's like, man, I'm from Montreal. I've done Silo so many times, but if you want to do it, like, I'm good. And you know, this place is just so monstrous. Like, this is a big freaking place, okay? So it's like, it's almost close to 1. And me and Rob were like, okay, cool. You know what? We'll come with. So yeah, we were like, yeah, we're down to hit it. But Sean, knowing Sean, like he has an inside scoop of like every other spot you could possibly think of. And he knows when to do them. So we were like, hey, when do we do it? And he was like, you have to hit it between 4 a.m. and 6:30, roughly 6. Port security switches their security in between then, so there's no security there at that time. So you have to hit it in between that time frame so you can get in. So by the time sunlight comes in the morning, they don't know anyone's up there, right? So this was the sketchy thing. I've never done anything this big. Some really good explorers have never done this spot, and I don't blame them because you could die. Every time you go there, you could die. There's a new way in, which, I mean, you could freaking zip line across on a little wire. People have done that. People have grappled up the top. You just don't know what you're gonna, you know, walk into when you're trying the spot. And now I know that, right? So we had an inside scoop from a fellow Montreal artist. He was like, yeah, this is the way in, you know, going through this way, and it should be good because he checked like the night before. So we're going, okay? So it's like 3 a.m. We're on our way to Montreal. We took 2 cars. And we get there, and the freaking entrance is sealed. They found it. Port security literally found it. And we got there. We went over to the spot, realized it was sealed over. We realized that. So we're like, frig, how can we get into this spot without anybody seeing? So we're thinking to ourselves, how can we get into this spot without anybody seeing? So we're looking around, and we find this separate building, okay, which in the top, once we got in, there was a ladder going into the main building, but you had to kind of, here's one building, here's the other. The ladder was in between, so you could fall to your death. But we didn't know that until we got up. So we climbed up through the sheet metal, we opened it up, and there was bars, okay? It just looked like a window. Like, that's all it looked like, was a window. So we're all climbing up one by one through the bars. We had to open the sheet metal, squeeze our, you know, head up in there and go over the bars into the spot. And we're all hopping over it, and Sean looks, and now, because I know Sean, he said several hundred times before, if you fall, you're f***ed, okay? If you fall, we're all dead. Some of you guys can die. Like, he's super honest, brutally honest. And thing is with Silo, if you get into the building, sometimes places inside the building can be sealed off. So you would be left with no other option than to come back, how you came in from, or jump off the building, and break your legs or die. You just don't know once you get in. And you can be absolutely screwed once you get in there. They could have sealed the wall right over, and then you have to jump off the building. Like, it's scary. People have, died trying to do that building. And yeah, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this is so cool, but I'm gonna probably die doing this freaking building. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Screw life. This is what, I've come this far. I'm doing this building. And we ended up getting in and climbing over that ladder, separate ladders, like a 30-foot, 40-foot drop. And you could have died. You could have broken your legs. Probably just died from that fall. And we get into the separate building, which kind of leads into the main building. It was so cool. The whole building was so run down, but you could like die at any moment. Like, there was heights, there was, drops where if you fell through the floor, you would fall, because like some of the other floors weren't there. So you would just, kill yourself instantly. And it used to be some sort of grain silo or grain factory or something like that. And it was abandoned for like 30 years. And so many people like have done it. If you've done this building, you're instantly like an urbexer. Like, there's been people who have done this building for their first explore. It's crazy. Like, real explorer, I should say. Yeah, this building was just so treacherous, but you can feel, that sense of adrenaline. It wasn't in Ottawa. Montreal is actually more of an urbex city rather than Ottawa itself. Ottawa is not an urbex city, but there are still people in urbexers going into all these buildings still, but it's nowhere near close to Montreal. Yeah, this spot hit me in a different way than any other spot. Okay, so now I'm thinking to myself, I can do anything. I could seriously do anything.
Yeah. We have to get off. We have to move on.
We just walked down this giant sketchy thing into here. Now we're in here. Robert's up there. Terrifying. Gonna propel down the electrical wires.
I mean, I can go down one
there, brother. You got this.
No, I could do it.
I don't know that man.
Shit. Go the distance.
Oh no, it hit. Take it. Right there. Ready?
I don't even know how to explain the next thing, because it was funny. We found an asylum. This was before me and Chelsea were dating. We found an asylum, an old, mental asylum. People with disabilities have been there. And matter of fact, before Chelsea and I were together, Chelsea went with her friend. She explored that before me. And in the active part, there's actually, it's a separate building from what I filmed at in that asylum. Some of you guys may actually have seen those videos. There's an active part where they have a community swimming pool. They have, you know, a paintball store in there, and it's not really used right now. Inside there, because we found out a lot of these asylums have, you know, abandoned bowling alleys. There's this one place in the asylum that had an old carriage from the 1900s, like untouched, like it's broken and everything, but it was still like fairly like in good condition. So yeah, moving on from Montreal, Silo, that was probably one of my best explorers to this day. Not haunted, it could be, you know, people have died there, but at the time I'm like thinking to myself, I want to survive more than I want to ghost hunt in this place. And I ended up taking, you know, some clips here and there, but I didn't film it. I don't know why I didn't film it. I was, you know, probably at the time, I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna die climbing this ladder, falling or something. So I wasn't really into the whole filming thing there, but I really wish I did. If I do go back, I am gonna film it. So yeah, moving on to that, Chelsea, before we, you know, were together, told me that there's a bowling alley and an old carriage in the asylum active part, but you're gonna have to go in when it's active. It's a totally separate building from the actual asylum that I filmed at. We go in, Chelsea's with her friend and I'm with Rob, and we get to the bowling alley. We got there, did a few like, you know, we took some bowling balls and, you know, tried to hit some pins and whatever. We found it and we went to go to the carriage. We didn't really find that, but Chelsea over time was trying to tell me where it was, but you know, how can I explain it? She forgot where it was technically, so we had to keep going back. Robbie and I went like a week in a row back, and we were trying, can't find it. And what I didn't know is that in the daytime, things are accessible there. At nighttime, they lock their doors. So yeah, big mistake, and this is actually where I got caught. And me and Sean and Robbie and like, you know, 2 other people went back to the asylum. We were going in, we know we can get into the abandoned part, easy peasy. But it's sneaking into the active part. At night there's like nobody there, and they don't have locks on their doors. From the outside, you can't get in, but when me and Chelsea went, me and Robbie jammed the door open. Robbie and I went like over and over again, couldn't find them, you know, on our own. You know, we couldn't find it. We went back at night with Sean, Robbie, and like 2 other people from the group, and we found a door. We were like searching head to toe, you know, trying to find it. And we finally found our way back to the wing, because we remember it when we went with Chelsea. It was locked. It was seriously locked. And it was only by a chain. It wasn't by like a key lock. It was by like a chain. So you can pull it out a little bit, but the chain would keep it from, you know, going out. You know what I mean? But Robbie, being skinny, being a really skinny guy, could fit through it and unlock it from the other side. So we're trying to get Rob through, you know, this door, these 2 doors which could open, but the lock, like chain lock, was around it, so we couldn't get it fully. Not all of us could fit through there, you know. So Rob's climbing up, and out of nowhere, like literally we didn't see a soul throughout the whole place, okay? Literally out of nowhere, some guy's walking, turns his head and sees Robbie and like 5 of us trying to go through this door. So this guy starts running like, hey. So yeah, it was like chaos from there, okay? And for once in my life, I put my key in my hoodie pocket. You know the pockets on the hoodies, you know, stuff could fall out. Usually I have my keys, because I drove, connected to the loop on my pants. But for some reason I put it in my hoodie pocket, so when I ran, I lost my keys. So at this point we're all scrambling. There's like 5 of us trying to get out of the building, and I can't find my keys. And so happens I dropped them out in the snow when I actually went back out there, when all of us were like outside at that point. I didn't know where they were, so I'm like, you know, just guessing in all these parts of the snow, and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, just dip, I'll take the heat. You know, they didn't leave, thank God, but I was like, yo, I'll take the heat, just go. You know, actually some of us actually ran back into the building when the guy was looking for us. The guy's still in there at this point, like looking for us. Some of us went back in there to find our keys, or to find my keys, and like no one could find it. We're like hiding behind walls. We're like literally like, where's the guy? Like they were outside. Okay, so I just go back outside. I'm like guessing in all these parts of the snow, and I finally find them. I'm like, yo, my keys, let's go. And, you know, some of us went in to get Sean and whatever, and we just dipped back. And this guy in a truck, I don't know who he was, but he was like out there like, you guys will never get away, whatever. And now I know not to park near abandoned places. You always walk. If you are an urban explorer, never park near a spot. Just don't do it. It's not good. And this guy followed us all the way back to my car, and this is illegal. He can't confine someone into a certain spot. You can't do it, okay? And he was like not letting us go. We're all in the car trying to get around him. He's like, you know, confining us in the spot, which I could have turned around, pressed charges on him, or I could have told the police, you know. This guy was like being a douche, you know. At this point, I got around him, and this silent property has this driveway for like, it probably takes about a minute to get down. And I'm just ripping, okay? It's, you know, these old asylum properties. So yeah, there's always a long driveway at like every asylum. So we're just going, and the truck stopped way back there. I'm like, we're about to get out. We're all like happy. We're all like, yeah, we got away. And yeah, that's when a bunch of cruisers, two kind of parked, like they came out of nowhere, one from this way, one from the other way, just beep, just stopped right there, sirens on and everything. We were screwed. And yeah, there's no getting away from that one. This was my first time really being caught, really being screwed, you know, at a location. I'm thinking, you know what, it is what it is. You were being idiots, you know. The other part we could have got in, like the actual abandoned part, super easy. But we were just being idiots. We went into active parts where, you know, there could have been cameras inside, there could have, you know, and we were just being idiots. You know, it was a lesson learned, and trust me, I will probably never do that again.
Bruh. There's blood everywhere, man. That's fresh. That's fresh blood.
Yeah, all this here too.
The fuck? It's getting narrow, bro. God damn, this place is endless. Just this way. And there's this way. Yo, there's two ways here.
We ended up actually getting released. We were detained there, and the cops didn't arrest us. They were about to. The family that owned the asylum came out. You know, it was like, whatever. Like, cops asked them, do you want to press charges, whatever. And I don't know what they said, but turns out the cops came back and said, we're only going to ticket you guys with trespassing tickets. That's it, which is $65 in our province. It wasn't too much money at all. I haven't really been there ever since. The last time I went there was with Chelsea to try out our brew buddy, and I haven't been there since. It kind of sketches me out, but because I do not want to get caught there. My name's out there, and they know my vehicle now, which I don't use because we use Chelsea's car now. But yeah, it was definitely a experience and a half. Before all of this was kind of recently, you know, 2019-ish. Actually, it was in 2019 this happened, but before that, my whole life was just crazy, okay? I worked in retail. I'm gonna be real, I have more fun doing this than I did when I was working in retail, okay? I was a manager at Zoomies, you know, trendy store that's kind of popping off now. You know, they sell skateboards, they sell trendy clothing and stuff. Yeah, so ended up actually like, to be real, I was having more fun exploring and ghost hunting rather than working back in retail. I worked in retail for like 4 years, and I worked at Zoomies as a manager. I worked at, you know, the outlets, you know, all these retail stores, like big box retailers that was, you know, it was a dead end job. I didn't want to stay my whole life. And, you know, like, who wants to waste, you know, their time selling clothing? It's a waste of time. It's literally, in my opinion, after a while doing it, a waste of time. Retail is a joke, for real. I thought to myself, honestly, I don't want to sell clothing. You know, like, I had to train people. When people came in, you have to, like, you know, try and sell them stuff. I had to train people, you know, to do that, and to, you know, how to talk to people, how to, you know, engage with people. And I'm thinking to myself, I really don't care about this. I don't care about selling somebody a sweatshirt. Does anybody really freaking care that much? And you have people in retail, you have like the district managers that come in, they're all like, you know, like, all they want to do is sell clothing. They think they're top shit and whatever. It's a joke. And in retail, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, screw this. I'm literally gonna quit like next week. People would come in, you know, look around. I don't care to sell them clothing. And, you know, I'm like thinking to myself, you know, I don't care if I sound like a dick. You know, like, if you want help, come and ask me. But my boss, district manager, always forced you to freaking talk to people. Long story short, it was like, honestly, man, go fuck yourself. Over time, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. Here's a key back to the store. Like, I'm honestly done. I really don't give a shit anymore, man. And I was going through like a long period of time where when I was in retail, I got in a fight with my mom. I was younger, you know, and it was different because at one point in my life, when I was stuck in that, you know, bubble of, you know, bullshit work, I got in a fight with my mom. I was living at a friend's house, and I started living, you know, in my car, and it was rough. You know, like, I would wake up, go to work. I wasn't really happy. You know, I lived in my car. I had a sore neck literally every time I went somewhere, right? And I thought to myself, you know, screw this lifestyle. Like, screw this, literally. And I quit retail completely, started working as a pizza delivery guy at a bunch of different spots. I ended up going back to Pizza, and that's where I kind of met Rob. And Rob is from Montreal, super into urbex, really good guy. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm starting a YouTube channel right now. And this is kind of before I, you know, told you guys the stories that came up. And, you know, it's really nice to see myself improve over the time, if that makes sense, because I was really stuck. I was wasting my life, you know, with drugs and, you know, skating and skateboarding. It was not something I wanted to do, you know, as a lifestyle. I wanted something more, you know, good on my body and, like, you know, less stressful. You know, like, I don't want to be around these people anymore. They were, you know, bringing me down. They were drug addicts. You know, all they wanted to do was waste their time in a day. It was something I didn't want to do, right? So I moved on from that, and it's really good to see. It was really good to feel like I went from the gutter to where I am now, and I'm still not at my goal. That makes sense. Like, I am not where you know, I haven't reached my full goals yet, but I am on the right path. That makes sense, and I am doing what's happy for me now. It makes me happy doing this stuff. So essentially, I am in a better place, and it's really good to feel like I, you know, took myself from that position and, you know, took myself to where I am now. And my life then would never go back, but it's really good to look at it and see how far I've become. I've been away from drugs for like years now, and I'm feeling really good. I'm gonna be real, working for your goals isn't the easiest. It's probably one of the hardest hustles somebody can do. And, you know, over time, you just have to keep doing it, okay? I still constantly feel like I'm being brought down by certain people at some points, but you can never quit. If you guys have something that you want to do, you can get yourself there. I was stuck. I was like nobody, like I wouldn't even hang out with myself back then, you know? Like if I saw myself, you know, as a different person, I wouldn't want to hang out with that guy. Frig that. Screw that. Like I'm not wasting my life. And, you know, So yeah, I came a long way from where I was, and it's the best feeling ever. There's no greater feeling than that. There's no greater feeling than doing what you love, you know, and helping people, helping yourself along the way. Last week I literally spent over $1,000 helping these two homeless boys, which, they came from Spain or, somewhere in Mexico. They literally came from like Mexico or something to come to this country to make a better life for themselves. And, you can tell they, didn't have much. They were begging people in Walmart to come and, help them, buy them some things. I literally spent over $1,000 to get these people, what they needed. Yeah, it was nuts. Like, their pants were ripped. They had shitty clothing. They kept piling stuff into my cart. I gave them permission, but, it all comes down to, like, I was them, like, I'm not from a different country. I wasn't born in a different country, but at one point I didn't have anything. And now I look back at it and I'm thinking to myself, damn, really opened my eyes to, how far I've come. Even my own sister never wanted to hang out with me. I was that bad of an addict of like my lifestyle back then. And some of you guys may look at me now differently, but this is my true self coming out. This is what I wanted to show you guys. But you get caught up with the work and the traveling and everything, and now I'm finally trying to describe and explain to you guys, how this whole idea came out, because none of you guys would truly be here if, I didn't start this. I didn't, if I haven't have put myself out on YouTube, right? And I know a lot of videos are going to be different than this. It's going to be like this video, this documentary, it's going to be very different than my normal content. This is why I make it for you guys, because you guys deserve something like this, like you guys deserve to know the real me and, my style behind of how I came out about it. I'm gonna be real. It's not easy to explain this, and I might keep this confidential between members and you guys only. For right now, when I'm ready, I'll probably release it out, but it was hard. It's really hard for me at some points, and don't get me wrong, I didn't grow up in the ghetto. I didn't grow up as a ghetto person. I just hung around with the wrong people and got myself into some trouble here and there, and, wanted to make a better life for myself, Kept going. Ever since, I started catching things, I started experience ghostly, activity, I kept going. If I were to quit, months ago, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be constantly growing. It's crazy to look back now and see how many supporters I have. And I'm not doing it because of pride. I'm not doing this because, I want to be the next YouTube star. I'm doing this because I want to somewhat make a name for myself, but, genuinely bring out the best of me, bring out the best of my evidence, bring out the best of what I can do, and kind of, improve along the way. Because you guys will probably see that my content is going to be changing. Okay, I'm constantly trying to think of new ways. I'm on the verge of being obsessed with, producing content, and it's because I care about it. I want to give you guys, not only members, everybody's a family here. Everyone who decides to, watch my videos, anyone who even isn't a member, they're still family. I want to do my best to create content for you guys and create content that will be remembered and, make people happy. This is the reason why I do it. There's been so many people where, they told me, Omar, like, you've literally turned my life back around. I'm happy I found your channel, and I'm happy that, every single time you drop a video, I drop what I'm doing and I watch it because it makes me happy. And that's the main reason why I do this, is because I'm not doing it for pride. I'm literally doing it because I have fun doing it. And over time, I've learned that people get happy off it. It's not only me, other YouTubers too have changed people's lives. It's not just a YouTube video anymore. It's not just, it's not just a YouTuber anymore. This is all, whoever your favorite YouTuber is, they've obviously changed your life. They've changed your view on things. They enjoy watching you because it makes them happy, and that's why I enjoy doing what I do, right? And it's, there's no better feeling of feeling moved, seeing where I've come from to where I am now. And it's truly amazing. If you do have children, or even for yourselves, if your children are old enough to watch this video and understand, my points and my stories, show them the video. Maybe they'll make the right decision for whatever they're doing right now, and make the right decision to move themselves in a better direction. It's not the easiest thing to do. And you don't have to become a YouTuber to do it, but whatever you are doing, whatever it is, you can move on from that lifestyle that you don't like. You can move on from that. Just keep striving in that right direction. There's no harder hustle than it, but you will get out of that. It's easier said than done, but I know it's not easy. But if you keep striving towards that right path, you will get out of the gutter. And there's no greater feeling than to see how far you've come in your life. Life is way too short to, eat up the bullshit and, stress about life. Smile through it all. Smile through all the bullshit. Just do the best you can, because everyone's a good person. Everyone's truly a good person. So now, there is another thing I kind of want to mention. And, before I got into the whole, exploring and ghost hunting scene, I was a really big fan of watching all of the ghost shows, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters with Taps, Grant and Jason. Like, that was the shit to me. Like, I would watch that over and over. I'd, constantly try and hunt ghosts on my own, like here and there off camera in my own house and everything like that. And I gained a connection with the paranormal world. Now, let's push urban exploring aside here. Ghost hunting now has brought out a crazy amount of life in me that I never knew I had. Okay, so this is kind of why I speak for do what makes you happy. Okay, because my whole life I was watching all these shows. I wanted to do it so bad. I bought my first spirit box and have done some stuff on that, and it's not the easiest to do. It's not the easiest to start, especially on your own. And I saw a bunch of these YouTubers, a bunch of people online doing all of it. So I thought to myself, you know what, I'm gonna start it. Like, this is the best I can do. And you gotta start somewhere, right? So I remembered that ever since like the early 2000s, I was watching Creepy Canada. And I forget what episode this is. Maybe some of you guys can actually, help me out with it. But there's one episode where this woman in her house walked in. I think she had a baby. I think she did. And there was like a hole in the curtain with like an eye through it. I remember it literally scared the shit out of me. And that specific episode is in my head, but I just don't know what it is. And it scared the shit out of me. But I wanted, that's the only episode I remember other than the jail hostel. And I remember those two episodes. And every time I went to a place, I would just think about those episodes. It scared the shit out of me. But at the same time, it gave me motivation because I wanted to catch that. Like all the stuff that people were, claiming to have caught, whether or not like the show is reenacting it, or like the show is telling people how, their claims have came out, whatever it is, I wanted to try and catch those claims. I wanted to try and, do that for myself. And, I'm still like, I grew up on like all the shows, Ghost Adventures, I watched for a little bit, Ghost Hunters. Yeah, I've probably watched like every episode possible of Ghost Hunters. I used to watch Ghost Adventures a little bit, GHI, Ghost Hunters International. They used to go to like Ireland and all, you know, Hawaii and all these cool places. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to strictly do it for myself, experience it for myself. And, you know, my whole life I carried, like even around like 2003, 2004, I was into the paranormal. I was into ghosts, probably for my whole life. Yeah, I carried that connection with the paranormal my whole life. And that's, you know, low key in the back of my mind. I always used to go home and like look for stuff to happen. Like I truly wanted stuff to happen. It would scare the shit out of me, you know, in the moment, but I truly want stuff to happen. I truly do. And I carried, you know, that connection my whole life with me, and finally put it to good use. 2019, I pulled out my camera from college and, you know, started doing it. It wasn't like a serious thing. Like I still have fun with it, but now we got to be more serious with it because I want to put out good content for you guys, right? There's also one more thing I do want to talk about, and that is one of my very first haunted dolls, okay? Now I found a lady on Instagram. Now I cannot find her account anywhere because I think she switched it or deleted it. But over Etsy, she had an Etsy account and she had over like 1,000 dolls. And what she does is she invites spirits into them, and you know, out of the like, there's over 1,000. She had videos on her account that, you know, she had orbs caught where the dolls were like laying in a room alone. They had like, she had, you know, videos of dolls moving on their own. So I'm like, do you sell them? And let alone, she had a whole website full of them. And I picked out one, and it was like, it was expensive. It was like $150 for this one freaking doll. And each doll had a story. Each doll had a spirit in it. And there was, you know, the psychic witch lady was literally inviting spirits. She puts, you know, all these spirits into the doll as like to trap them in a vessel, you know. So I bought this doll. It was a 6-year-old girl that died from cancer. She invited that spirit into the doll that I bought. And frig, when I bought it, like I had my tripod in my house fall over. I had my cats like stare at the corners when they've never done that before. And, you know, I've heard a little boy and like child talk like in my house when I had that doll. Like it was scary. And with that being said though, I ended up actually dropping the doll and it broke her head, unfortunately. And ever since then, like weird stuff stopped happening. I used to do a Ouija in my own room to try and connect with, you know, Macy. Yeah, I used to actually do a Ouija in my room trying to connect to this spirit. Her name is Macy. Yeah, ever since I dropped the head, stuff stopped happening. I think the sketchiest thing that's happened so far was my tripod. It was on 3 legs, and I was legit, like it's, like I have a tripod here right now. It was like maybe a meter in front of me, and it fell over on 3 legs. It was messed up. Forget her name, but messaged her back and technically told her, I was like, I dropped the head, like, could the spirit be there? And she took one look at it. It was like, no, spirit's gone. And I kind of got disappointed. I paid so much money for that, just for the spirit to go and leave, you know? Yeah, still carry her around. Charles actually used her at the old Angel Inn. Some of you guys may have seen that with Angelo. We chalked her up and stuff. That's Macy, literally. And I mean, still a good trigger, right? I mean, you never know when, you know, something's gonna happen, right? So yeah, that was definitely crazy. For my first time actually going from super skeptical to, you know, a believer within the first 6 months, it's truly incredible. As far as urban exploring and, you know, ghost hunting go, they really do merge really well together. We've found so many, you know, cool stuff in these abandoned houses that have to do with the paranormal and ghosts and stuff. It's crazy. Something I've never thought in my whole lifetime. You know, it's crazy. Never in my whole life have I ever thought that I would be where I am now, freaking ghost hunting. I quit everything. I quit the military to do YouTube, to do ghost hunting and exploring because I felt like that was right. I literally could have had a career in the military. Some people make fun of me to this day. Some people think it's cool, but I really don't care. Love or hate me, I'm gonna do what makes me happy. I think one of the craziest things that fans don't know is the fact that Omar, for a whole year, worked towards getting into the military, and not only working to get in the military, was accepted and was like fully like go sign the papers. Here's the date when you go to basic training. Accepted in the military, and then kind of took a leap of faith a little bit and jumped into the world of YouTube. And hey, it's going great so far. Follow your passions. Growing up with a medium. The earlier years was cool. Into the high school where you start kind of caring what people think. I went to a Catholic school. I always thought people would think it was super weird. So I used to always tell everyone that my dad's a therapist. I used to always say like, oh, he's a therapist, he helps people. And more throughout my life, like my close friends knew what he did. And then eventually, of course, everyone, as soon as your parent does something cool, came and I was like, oh, that's so cool, I want to get a read. And people from my high school started booking reads with my dad. And they'd be like, oh, that's your dad? So that was definitely cool. It definitely gives you a bigger insight on like a lot of stuff like you see, especially here on the channel. That's why I had so much knowledge of it, because they did investigations themselves, and it's definitely a different background than I think the majority of people grow up in, for sure. The main thing that really wanted me to bring up my dad being a medium to Omar was the fact that I watched the Ottawa jail hostel video, and I thought like, hey, there's a lot of safety involved in it. Whether you believe in all that stuff or not, I'll spare the crazy details, but there's a lot of safety that goes into going into somewhere like the Ottawa jail hostel, which is wildly known to being very haunted. And I felt like, even if that was the only piece of advice I ever gave Omar, ever, and that was it, I mean, he just did his thing or kind of died off, like, at least he could do it safely to the point where he's not like getting sick or getting attached to or anything, which he ended up actually having something attached to him, which hey, good story time video, maybe for a live stream or a video or something. But yeah, and it's just, I really wanted to make sure he did it safely so that there wasn't anything that, you know, was hurting him. Or I have a lot of crazy experiences with paranormal. One of the oldest ones I can remember was I was like 4 or 5, and I called it the toilet man, but I remember seeing a spirit like sit down in the toilet, get up, flush, and walk out repeatedly. And I remember like not being able to go to the bathroom because of that spirit. But it got more than that, like hearing footsteps. And again, another great story time video would be the time Omar spent a fraction of the night in my basement. And he kind of heard, living with a medium brings a lot of spirits generally into your home. And I heard a lot of crazy stuff like cupboard slamming, whistling. That's the creepiest I think in my house. Is my parents' house is whistling. Spirits say like medicine and die and just a lot of like keywords that you really couldn't capture anywhere else. And it was like 11. Yeah, it was like 10:30 or 10 or 11. And Omar's like, I have this really cool location. It's like this abandoned asylum / high school, but it's 3 hours away, one way. And he's like, do you guys want to go? And I thought my brother-in-law was gonna be like, no, I'm good, like I'll go home, you guys can go. But no, everyone was like, you know what, we're down, let's go to the gas station, grab some energy drinks and some 5-hour energies, and we drove 3 hours away. That was really cool. I think it's torn down now, which is unfortunate, but that was really cool. It was like a huge high school. Crazy shit happened there, and even the ski resort we've been to now twice. But yeah, there's the best times for urbexing. There's always those days where you're like, this is like 4 hours away. Let's just go. Let's do it. We got the Sunday off or whatever day it is, and you just
giver. Gas doesn't really matter when you're having fun, right? So the asylum was really cool. It was really cool to see. I think that was the first time. I've been to like other abandoned buildings now that are really well preserved. That was the first time we went to an abandoned building that wasn't like just like a hole in the ceiling, very broken, garbage everywhere. That was the first time where there was like desks in some of the rooms still. It just kind of looked like everyone just kind of got up and left.
Guys, look at this. There's actually a basement to this place. Yo, did you guys see there's a basement to this place? Another quarter. Guys, I don't think... This is a big place, man. We have a lot to cover. Yeah. Like, we actually have a lot to cover.
Like hours.
Get out of here. Something moved behind me, bro.
Straight up.
What did you get?
There's a room over there that says, in graffiti, that says Ariana will die 1403.
No way. Like Ariana Grande?
I don't know.
It wasn't written the same way.
That and the ski resort, but the asylum for sure. And there's a lot of like creepy backstories to it. It's near the border. There's a lot of stuff, like a lot of history. I think that was the first time I went to somewhere there's crazy history. That it just kind of, it blew me away to like it's almost like you're traveling back in time in a way. A little bit, like you see in the movies where like they're looking back in time. Yeah. Wish we could go again, but again, I think it's torn down. We went to this in the middle of a crop field. This was like one of our first, I think it was our first like real adventure. And this is when Omar had like, I think 30 to 40 subs. Like it was super small and there's an abandoned building and we had to go through this whole crop field. We tried once and we got stuck. We went back with one of my friends, her little cousin, like I think she was like 9 or 10. And we all went, we did like a Ouija board in there and little cousin was scared. And that was a really good video. Like I think that was a very underrated video. I mean, it probably feels like it was a good video because it was a fun time, but I don't know anymore. But if you're a fan from that time, comment down below. Let us know because that's an OG moment for sure. The Butcher, and if anyone's seen that video, that's a crazy video. I think that was our first time having anything that was like kind of like a slap in the face paranormal experience. But like it wasn't just like a typical little bang in the basement. It was like a whole door closing. If anyone's seen that video, that was a crazy overnight challenge. I remember like I wanted to go, but I was like overnight I'd be so uncomfortable, you know, like, but definitely stepped out of our comfort zone there. That is a crazy history again, that house. We almost got caught once because there was someone hired to cut the front lawn. We don't know why, I still don't know why to this day, but there's someone hired to like cut the front lawn and like kind of maintain it a little bit. And we went in during the day and he was there and he was like, oh, like, you know, I don't think it was private property. He didn't say it was private property, but he was like, yeah, I don't know if the owners would like people here, but there's no private property signs. Like, we're very careful with that type of stuff. So we went back and, oh man, that was a crazy video. The door slamming still gives me chills sometimes to this day because it was loud and it was a bang and it was the biggest paranormal experience of my life for sure. I used to upload on and off for years, and so I kind of knew this space. I was very early on to like the YouTube scene. Like I'm like 2013, I think is when I first really started consuming YouTube content with one of my friends. And so besides also like the paranormal and my dad being a medium and stuff, I was also there be able to help Omar a little bit with like just some of the building block starting ideas of like, you know, upload schedule and thumbnail, like ideas for thumbnails and stuff like that, because I was a thumbnail artist for a while and stuff like that. So I really studied YouTube. I felt like I brought a little bit of help there for sure. And also I knew how to be in a YouTube video. Like that's a lot of people at home that don't realize, like, it's one thing to go out urbexing, have a lot of fun, it's great, even film it, but trying to pursue YouTube as a career, you need to like surround yourself with people who also have the same ideas as you and know how to like execute on those ideas on and off camera. So I kind of knew how to be professional at it, even though I was nowhere near a professional. So from the Omar men's team, this is more of a safety thing. Number one, we all advise you, don't break into anywhere. Like, don't break down doors. Don't, if it's not open, don't go in. If you see a lot of no trespassing signs. It's very clear that the owners maybe not be there presently, but like they still own it. They still like their building. They don't want anyone in. Don't break the law. I know Omar especially, but like me even, like I've never advised anyone ever to break in anywhere. Just get to know some locations. There's a lot of people who will let you in on some locations to go to. There's a lot of actual legal ones too that are probably around you. You can go see and kind of merge into it later. And be very respectful to buildings. Don't trash them. Don't like there's, I can't tell you how many times me and Omar have gone to a building and we're like, this would have been nice if teenagers or people didn't come in and just break everything in the building and just trash it. Like you're not cool. It's not fun. Don't do it. And yeah, just be safe. There's a lot of dangerous stuff in these abandoned buildings. You don't know the condition of it. So, little public safety service announcement from us. Don't be safe, kids. So I'll indulge a little story with working with my dad. So my dad used to do these what's called psychic fairs. It's basically just like a big old event with a lot of mediums, a lot of like Reiki people, whole nine yards. Just vendors, stuff like that. And there was one woman who came in and wanted to speak with my dad, and she went on a professional surfing trip. She's a professional surfer, and she went down to Florida and she went and got a tattoo at this really sketchy place that she didn't really feel comfortable in, like that gut feeling you have, but she didn't listen to it. And the entire time she was very ill. She came in, she looked very pale, she wasn't herself, very irritable, like very grumpy all the time. And she wanted to speak to my dad, but also I had a childhood friend whose grandma also did the same similar stuff, and she was very much an elder to my dad at the time. Like she was a lot older in it, she had a lot more experience. And they went into I only know about this because I was actually chosen to guard the door. And they went and had a conversation with the girl, and we'll call her Jean for safety purposes, we won't say her real name, but the older lady whose name was Jean, that's what we're going to call her. And Jean was sitting across the table from this girl and was just having a normal, typical conversation, and the girl was kind of getting a little mad, and I was young, I didn't really understand why she was getting mad. And then all of a sudden, Jean looks at the girl, and I'll never forget this, dead in the face, and says, "You need to leave this person alone. That's not your body." And I'm not even lying, and there might be skeptics who still watch, but this girl jumped out of her chair, slammed her fist down on the table, and just started screaming bloody murder. It wasn't like your typical Hollywood moment where she was like deep voice and like demonic, but she just started screaming her head off, and like crying and stuff. And Jean was just saying like these words. I wasn't really listening because I was terrified, but she was saying a lot of this stuff. And then eventually the girl just kind of fell back in her chair, and was very tired. And then she kind of came to and was actually very happy and stuff. And that is a real version of what a possession looks like, or what people would call a possession. Basically, my dad told me later that this girl was possessed. There's a spirit that they don't take control of your body necessarily. It's not like that, but was in her, was attached to her, and was making her very ill and very irritable, and grumpy. I remember she was a very grumpy person, and she immediately came to, and she was a very nice person. She spent the rest of the day around my dad and Jean. And they did all their necessary stuffs with things called like archangels and all that jazz. Very complicated stuff that even I'm not fully in depth with, but that was the scariest moment, probably one of the scariest moments of my life, even more than accidents or anything, just because you could tell in that moment of anger that there was something that wasn't her that was releasing from her. Yeah, that was terrifying. I remember that. I was like, so that's what possession looks like, and they're very real, and that shouldn't obviously ever stop you from going into urbexing. You just need to protect yourself properly. How to protect yourself, be very careful. If you have that gut feeling, you shouldn't climb a set of stairs or wherever it is, a basement, just don't. It's just as simple as that. Like, don't be a hero, don't go in. Because that girl had a gut feeling, didn't listen, and suffered for months because of it. Because they can do that. They make you very tired, they make you very, you're just, I wouldn't say depressed, but kind of like you're just tired, mad at everything, and then you don't necessarily know why. A lot of times they'll just leave you alone after a while. They'll kind of get what they want or whatever, but I don't exactly know how it works in that regard. But yeah, she was, I'll never forget her face too. Her face of just like her eyes didn't go black, but it was very blank. Like, if anyone knows, like if anyone's ever looked at any photos of, Jeffrey Dahmer, like any famous serial killer or anything, you could see like that blank look in their eyes. She had a very similar look, like her eyes were there, but she wasn't, type thing. So I guess one story kind of to hit the road with Omar, again, very early. He had a couple hundred subscribers at the time, but wanted to come stay at my parents' house, which I still think would be a great video. But because what happens is when you're a medium, you're kind of like a portal or like someone to talk to for spirits. So there's a lot of spirits in my parents' home. And I told them that, and my parents were gone away for the night, and they wanted us to watch the house. And I was like, so Omar, like, we'll be upstairs. I had to go to bed by like 10 because I had to work early in the morning. So I said, past 10, none of us, like neither me or my fiance will be up. So it's all you. And then I woke up early in the morning, and Omar's car was gone. I was like, oh, wow, he left early. I'm come to learn that he actually left around 1:30 in the morning because he got, well, very drowsy and tired and lethargic, which can happen when the spirits don't really know you and you're kind of in their area. They won't attach to you, but they'll make you know they're there. He heard steps walking from the top of the hallway, even down the stairs, whistling, cupboard doors slamming, the whole 9 yards. And this is, anyone who comes to my house will hear this. You just spend 24 hours in my parents' house and you'll hear all these things. The whistling is always the creepiest because it sounds like an old lady whistling as she's cooking. But also never forget that. And unfortunately, it was a video that never happened just because of that tired and like the feeling of being lethargic and tired and sleepy. He couldn't really film. I definitely do think that'd be a really cool video for the fans with tripod, set them up type thing. Again, that was another crazy because I lived there my whole life. I heard these things, so I kind of just like slept through it. You get used to it. But from an outsider perspective, from someone else, I have a lot of friends who I wouldn't have sleepovers in my house because people didn't want to sleep in my house. So yeah, that's a crazy story. So there's a little girl who in my parents' house who slams all the cupboards and finds it funny. I'll give a little short story. My fiance was making a sandwich. She was hungry. And at this point, she was kind of used to it, and she heard the cupboard door open because it's like one of those old houses. It went like and opened, and then she was kind of like, "Nope, I'm not gonna look. Screw that." And then it slammed, and she grabbed her sandwich and ran into the room. There's an old lady who walks the halls and whistles. That's the old lady you hear. And actually, at one point, there was an old man who thought my brother was his son and tried getting in contact, and it scared the bejesus out of my brother. And my dad had to like send him away or whatever that is. But I think that's all the ghosts. There's some that come and go, like my late aunt's there, my late grandpa's there. But that's general. Your late family is usually around you all the time. But the ones that reside there, yeah, as an old lady, a young girl. The young girl likes to wake my dad up by like getting in his face. So my dad basically sees spirits the way we see humans. There's certain levels to it, and that's the level he's at. And he often wakes up to the little girl in his face, which you can imagine would be terrifying, right? Like that would be the scariest thing in the world. But he would always get up and like go for a walk and be all frustrated because they'd wake him up. Yeah, those are all the spirits that live in my parents' house. They're all nice. Like none of them will ever harm you in the house, but little girl likes to mess with people, and she tends to mess with you. Like she will, especially if you're a skeptic or a stranger. She'll like to slam the cupboards or, move stuff, which annoying little rascal. But hey, my number one advice, and I told Omar this when he started, and I tell everyone, is be extremely respectful, because if you don't understand what's going on, it's like going into it would be like walking into a stranger's house and wearing your boots to their house. If you wouldn't do it naturally, then don't do it to them. Because they've been there longer than you. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. If there are weird things going on in your house, you can't explain them. Don't be rude. You're not going to gain anything from it. And just, as a protecting yourself, very basic way I can imagine it is just imagine yourself kind of in this big, huge ball, and it's just white. And just keep picturing that as much as you can as you're in anywhere that you're uncomfortable, and that will protect you. It would take me an hour to go into why that would protect you, but that's just my biggest advice. But outside of like mediumship and techniques like that, be respectful. trust your gut. Don't go in anywhere that you don't want to. There's no peer pressure in this situation. Like actually a story was we went onto a bridge and nothing paranormal, but the spacing of the bars I was just very uncomfortable with. And so I just didn't go. That was just my way of like being like, nope. Well, I did went, but eventually I was like, I'm not going any further. Because I was uncomfortable. But it's the same thing with anything supernatural, especially urbexing. You don't know what that building used to be. It could look like a random open area warehouse, but there could have been some concentration camp style or jail or horrible place. You don't know. So yeah, just be smart. Don't be stupid. Listen to your gut. Listen to your feelings. And don't be rude. Like you wouldn't be rude in a stranger's house, so don't be rude in a random place. Even if you can't physically see them, trust me, they're there. I could go through a catalog of experiences to prove that they're there to you. So yeah, be respectful. Be nice people, you know. I think again the main thing that he taught me was again be respectful, but be very open. My dad, anyone who's met him, is an extremely scientific person. He's a computer engineer, very high IQ. He goes into everything with a scientific mind first. He never walks to us and goes, oh, this is haunted, this is crazy. Just because he always tries to find the logical reason behind it. And there's been a lot of stuff that I've been like, oh, look at this crazy video. And he's like, Blake, that's this, that's that. Even though he's the medium, right? So he taught me to be very skeptical, but in a good way. Don't just believe everything you see, like when you're there, right? Be skeptical, but honestly, observe it for yourself. Find your own opinion about it. If you believe it, you believe it. Don't let other people change your opinion on that. Like a big thing for me is like Bigfoot, Loch Ness. Like I firmly will tell anyone that shit exists. That they all exist because that's the way I was raised. I formulated my own opinion about it, and I believe it. So, when it comes to paranormal stuff, he taught me to stay true to what you believe. He never forced me to believe in this stuff. He never was like, this is real, believe it or else, like a lot of other religions will do. He was very like, you come up with your own opinion about it. And well, being surrounded by people who do this for a living, it's hard to ignore the evidence. Like when there's a situation that is, there's no possible way it's that like wind or anything could affect it. You'll learn. Like I hope everyone behind the camera gets to at least experience that once in their life, of having a moment that truly like you're like, okay, there's no changing that. There's nothing possible that could have been. So yeah, he taught me mainly to be honest with yourself, believe in what you believe, and formulate your own ideas, because it's the only way you're ever gonna be good at this stuff, right? So anything to do with a medium, I highly recommend you check out my dad. It's on Facebook. It's Whispering Souls by Ken. He top 10 Ottawa Valley. He does free online reads every Wednesday. Like I said, Whispering Souls by Ken. And you can go in and get a free read for yourself, see how it is. I highly recommend it. And also I know he's going to be doing classes online virtually. Or even if you just want to read virtually, but you're from the States or you're from UK, it's not a problem for him as long as the times match, obviously. He will hop on Zoom with you. But like I said, he's one of the best mediums. Number one, money back guarantee, which is very important for people. But number two, he is a skeptic first. So he will not, like, you can say like, oh, he won't fish for ideas. So like a lot of mediums will be like, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself. They're doing that on purpose to try to get information about you so they can kind of relay it. So you're like, oh yeah, I have a grandpa that passed, and all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, I'm hearing a message from a certain older man that passed. Like, right, they're just fishing. My dad gets straight into the message. He won't ask anything about you. He'll just immediately start telling you, like, Omar's had it, Chelsea's seen it. Creepy stuff that there's no way he knows about you. So yeah, definitely Whispering Souls by Ken. Check him out. He works very hard at it. So does my mom. My mom's like his secretary. Book a read. He doesn't even care. Go to the free online sessions. That's all he needs. He likes to help people through that. So yeah. What I do daily in a normal day that revolves around paranormal is, I was taught and trained in a medium, like, to be a medium. Nowhere near as strong as my dad, but that's just my avenue I took when I did kind of dive into it a little bit. So I do constantly get messages from spirits in my head. I don't. It's a golden rule from my dad that you don't ever tell someone unless they ask you. So I often don't even say them. But it's good information for me to know. But besides that, like in my daily life, like there's a lot of techniques I learned through mediumship and spirituality, which is kind of like the bubble of the religion. Like if you call it a religion, it's not really, but if you were to call it, it'd be spirituality. A lot of the protecting things I do daily, but just, yeah, like a lot of the lessons, it's a lot about free throwing and everything having an energy and understanding energies and stuff like that. But in my daily life, I don't do a whole lot of spirituality because I find it exhausting to constantly have to follow any type of religion or belief system. It's not for me. But easily every 1 or 2 days, like intervals, I'll get a message from someone that I'm around, or I'll spare details, but there's a big, huge moment that happened with my fiance's family, and right at the perfect moment, I got a message from someone that had passed that I had no idea of, and it's exact words that he had used in the past to my brother-in-law. Like, his grandpa said these exact words to him when he was younger to calm him down, and I said the exact same thing in the type of tone he would. Things like that, right? It comes and goes for sure. What I do, like, excluding urbex and all that and spirituality, is I'm an educational assistant at a school. That's my job. I'm an avid video game player. You'll often find me playing Overwatch, mainly Overwatch right now, but video games. And more I'm into fitness. I'm trying to become a police officer. That's my main goal in life, because I always wanted to help people, but I always realized that there are a lot of bad cops in the world, but in turn of that, you need the good, and that was one of my goals, to be that good. I also have a daughter, as people know, a lot of people know on this channel, so there's a lot to do with that too. But I kind of normal days I live a boring life. Like I go home from work. I usually go to the gym, then I go home, eat dinner, meal prep, all that jazz. Kind of more fitness stuff. If you're interested in anything fitness, you can DM me on anything, Twitter, I don't care. I'll give you lots of ideas, but stuff like that, and just kind of chill. I mean, I think you take life a day at a time. You do what you like, and there's no rushing things. We're all young. Until you're dead, you're young. So I always like saying that. You're young till you're dead. So I hope watching this documentary, more of the fans understand what it takes to be not just an urbex YouTuber, a YouTuber, and especially what it took for Omar and stuff like that. Like, it's a lot of days of doing this, not getting paid, hours, editing for 8-9 hours a day, and then having to worry about getting up and doing it again. So I hope you guys through this documentary kind of get to see more of a background of not only Omar, but just the process. And you don't often get to see that. So yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy the video, really watch it. Enjoy the content. Hopefully it inspires you.